Hi guys, it's Joey, and today's video is going to be called Witchy Empathy. And this is something I've been musing over for a day or two, and I think it's really important, so I'm going to make a video about it. And by empathy, I'm not talking about the belief in empathic skill, which is when someone believes they can almost feel the emotions of those around them, although this kind of ties into that a little bit, but not quite what I'm after, because in this video I'm going to discuss the sort of societal lack of empathy for other people and the world around us, and how that sinks into the witchy, pagan, however you want to verify yourself, community of those who should be more aware. Yeah. So we'll start with society and what I perceive to be a complete lack of empathy. So by this lack of empathy, I am discussing the attitude towards other people and other things and creatures and the world around us, which basically follows the attitude of, as long as I get what I want, I don't really care about whatever. This is a problem in society, and I really think it is a disease of apathy. People have become more and more closed off. There is less and less community. I don't know how much community is going to change that, given that we do have an online community, but there is definitely this really worrying apathy. You can see it within society as in many different ways. It's sort of the judging of people to be lesser than they are, or less deserving than they are, or don't matter as long as they get what they want. You can see this in examples of corporations cutting down rainforests. As long as people have their armchairs or bedside cabinets, who cares about the rainforests? And people who do care about the rainforests are often judged and dismissed as being like hippies, or like a negative stereotype, a negative connotation of those worries of having empathy for the planet. And we as pagans are supposed to revere and honour the planet, not just completely dismiss it. So anybody sort of within the pagan community who's just dismissing this sort of thing, it's a bit worrying, because you're supposed to have this deep empathic understanding for Earth and the god and goddess energy moving through all things, all people, and then somehow there's a disconnect somewhere about being empathetic. Now, with regards to people, I've had personal experience with this, and I therefore notice it more in general terms. So I will discuss in a more abstract way, without going into any specifics, my personal experiences with people who were not empathetic, didn't care, were dismissive of my troubled times, of my feelings, of my path. And before I go into that, I read a really wonderful quote yesterday, and I can't remember where I read it, but it was basically like, you shouldn't be judging people because you don't know where they are on their path. And that is the crux, if you like, of what I am worrying about, getting at, talking about here. So it seems to me there's this real disconnect in the caring about what other people are feeling, what other people are going through, what other people are suffering. And like, as long as you get what you want, it doesn't matter. Like, you can dismiss, you can judge, and it's a real social disease. It really is. Now, there is a line, admittedly, between empathizing with people and giving too much to people who would drain you of all your energy, time and help. There are people who basically suck the life out of other people through victim complex. I have personal experience of this in my immediate blood relative family. They're not my family, but for ease of word. And the difference is really simple. People who are like that at no stage, at no point want help. Not really. They want your time, excuse me, they want your effort, they want your energy. They will probably treat you badly after you've given it, and they never, ever take a step in the direction of getting sorted. That is a permanent state of being. Certain people might be going through really difficult situations, and to start with, they can't see how to go forward. They just break down. People breaking down because of difficult situations is not the same as people being purposefully draining other people because in victim mode. The blood relative that I knew my entire life never sought help. Never sought help. They would tell lies to get out of seeking help. Like they once went to a counsellor and the counsellor was like, oh, well, you just have to get on with it. That phrase is the most unempathic, it's the complete void of feeling. It's a complete void of sympathy, empathy, respect of a person. And I've had that said to me by somebody who at the time I thought was the love of my life, and clearly wasn't, given that they said that to me. They said to me, just get over it, after I had personal trauma to such a degree. I mean, most people, if I came out and said the personal trauma, most people would be shocked, and most people wouldn't, you know, it's not something that crosses the mind instantly to say to someone, just get over it. There is this real dismissiveness of people's personal problems, and it's a really ugly and really worrying social disease as far as I'm concerned. And we as pagans and witches are supposed to be more aware. We are supposed to be more aware of how our words affect people, of how power comes into our words. Spell work and stuff is all done through your own raising and releasing of energy. And what do you think these words are? So I was going through some stuff and I couldn't get over it. I would have nightmares. I still have nightmares from time to time, not like it used to be. Now, the difference is that I did seek out help. At the time, I was just, it was like grabbing at straws, like trying to find someone who would help me. And a lot of people, like who were supposed to be my friends, were not. And I had 3 separate negative reactions. I had the get over it reaction, like, I'm not even going to dignify that with a analysis of that, because it's just an ugly way to be. It's a complete lack of empathy, and it needs adjusting. It really does. I had the people who were like pitying but didn't want anything to do with me. Like, oh, I'm so sorry you've been through this, but I don't want anything to do with you. Like you were dirty. And sort of people who were really badly judgmental, like you'd done something to deserve abuse. Now, I'm going to tie this into domestic violence, which I have had happen to me. That's a separate thing. And I've known other people go through it, through stages of domestic abuse. And I've done videos before discussing myths of domestic violence. And it's a very real social problem that people are really unempathetic, unsympathetic about. And they're like, oh, just get over it, just leave, just whatever. And it's like, people don't really understand that abusers use every tool in their utility belt, quite often, literally, to tie that person down. People think of domestic violence as just being like somebody hitting their partner, but what they don't realise is there is so much more to abuse than that. There is the emotional side of things where they break down a person's sense of self-worth and self-confidence to the point where they don't feel they can leave. There's like the physical violence, so they're afraid to leave and afraid of, say, this person attacking the loved ones or something similar. And then there is financial abuse, where that quite often the abuser ties their finances into the victim, so the person might not be able to financially leave. You know, it's frightening, and the world of the weight of the world comes down upon them where they feel they cannot leave. And some people, it will take them different vary amounts of time before they can build themselves up to the point where they feel they can leave, or they get help from an outside source. And if someone is looking for help, if someone is talking about what they've been through, is like putting across a verbal communication, you don't know how much strength it took for someone in a position of pain to reach out to someone else. And if the response they get is, get over it, just leave, whatever, you're making it up, you're whatever, that sort of reaction, no effing wonder they don't leave, or they don't get help, or they continue in whatever the painful cycle they are within. I had that reaction, and that's the effect it had on me. So many people were willing to disbelieve victims. It's a real social apathy. As witches, as pagans, we are supposed to be more aware. Everybody is judgmental by nature, and it is something we should all work on overcoming. I know it's been something that was always a part of me that I didn't like, and I just wanted to overcome it, and I still have to check myself in certain situations. People see someone in a certain situation, someone sees someone who's homeless, someone sees someone with it's difficult to say, but people are really judgmental to those who are vulnerable, like they deserved it, and I don't get it. I really do not understand the nastiness that comes from this personal apathy towards those in need. Sure, there are people who victim complex and drain the life out of people. I know one very, very well. These people don't want help ever. And I saw years and years of the same stuff, and what it basically, the difference is within people whether you have an effect or not. And the easiest way is if you offer real, genuine, structured advice. And it might be a Virgo thing, but actions, steps they can take towards seeking help. Have you ever tried counselling? Have you ever discussed this with a doctor? Have you discussed this with a family relative outside of the situation? What are the key things that are tying you to this negative situation which you can start to change to move away from it? And if that person has no interest in doing that, that's an indicator, but it's not to say that they definitely are, because some people feel so lost they just can't see a way out of it. However, when people start to reach out to people, tell people what they're going through, that's often the first tentative steps towards getting help. And if people are apathetic or cruel, you could be seriously hurting that person. I always say we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and I think this is one of the oldest and truest things ever said. It's like you don't know the truth of a given person's situation. You might know fragments of what they tell you, but no person tells you everything. Nobody does. Nobody, like, some people don't want to relive their pain. Some people don't want you to think badly of them. Some people don't want to be lessened in other people's eyes, and that is another problem with this complete lack of witchy empathy and empathy in society in general. The value judgments that are being placed on people, it's ugly. Nobody has the right to tell somebody how they should or should not live their path. Nobody has the right to tell you that you should worship a certain goddess. No one has the right to tell you that you should worship a certain god. No one has the right to tell you you should follow a certain path. It's your path, it's your heart, it's your experience through life. No one has the right to tell you, if you don't do this, then you're less of a witch. If you don't do that, then I'm going to think less of you. It's just so ugly. It's one of the ugliest sides of human nature, and it's something that we need to overcome. We really need to start listening to people, because so many people who are vulnerable drop through the cracks of society, and people commit suicide. Like, people hurt themselves. People become destroyed. Their lives fall apart, and all because people are really unsympathetic at every stage. Getting help is a really difficult thing, and there can be huge barriers in the way of society stopping people from getting help. When I sought out counselling, I was told I was entitled to 6 weeks of sessions, so 6 sessions of counselling originally, and that was it. And if I wanted any more, I had to pay for it. Well, what if I can't afford to pay for it? Well, tough. There is a real ugliness in society, and it's all about materialistic gain. It's all about greed. It's all about finance. It's all about wealth. It's all about putting other people down for benefit. That's all I've ever seen. Somebody's trying to do something, somebody's trying to pull themselves out of something and engage in a positive project. Whatever it may be, there will be people who will try and stop it. People who are trying to lose weight, there will be naysayers. There will be people tempting them with food. There will, even in close familiar groups like friends and family, there will be someone who doesn't want them to succeed. There will be naysayers. There will be people telling them they can't do that. People telling them all sorts of things. For example, the same person who was in victim complex would do this. They would try and stop me and my sisters from being healthy, losing weight, etc. And they would try and stop us following our dreams by telling us we had unrealistic, that wasn't going to be enough, we would fail, we would be in the gutter, we would be homeless if we tried to do that. Now, what I wanted to do, and I'm working on currently, is be an author. Apparently that's a pipe dream. So it's a complete lack of empathy for the person's path and what they need and what they want and what they dream. And as witches, this is so the opposite of what we should be seeking. We should be seeking to strengthen our community, not like bash them down. We should be seeking to encourage them to learn and grow with our help, but also by themselves, to encourage their self-strength, self-confidence, and self-belief. There's nothing wrong with somebody thinking for themselves, and we should feed into that. We should empathize with them enough to see that they need that. They need to walk their path, and we should stand shoulder to shoulder walking this life together, not trying to shove past so we get some kind of advantage. I don't like a lot of the money stuff in society, and this is why. I really don't like this whole dog eat dog mentality, because it's ugly, and it keeps people from being better people. I understand the way the world is has to be that way, and I don't think it could function any other way. And there's too many people who just don't care, who are just greedy and want what they want, and build up massive corporations or whatever, and as long as they get their finances pumped through the roof, they don't really care. I mean, there's people who are being paid more money than they can possibly spend for stuff that isn't really very important. I mean, you look at the average wage of footballers or even politicians, and you're thinking, particularly politicians at the minute are really irritating me. It's like there are people being put on the street who are on the poor side, but don't think that any of the Tories have ever suffered a financial hardship, because they haven't. I heard this news story, and it was these people have been having their finances completely cut because they've been deemed to not been trying to get a job hard. They've not been actively seeking job hard enough. Undoubtedly there are problems within the benefit system, but there were people who were basically mentally unwell and should never have been on job seekers in the first place, but the government is in a point where they're basically trying to force people to be screwed. They don't care about the poor, and that's just, yeah, it's just complete lack of empathy in that sort of way. It's just like charity is a dirty word in modern society. Like helping others has become something dirty and ugly. Like as long as you have all the flashy toys, who cares about anyone else? And that seems to be prevalent in society in general. Attitudes towards other countries. The whole world is falling to hell because of this attitude. I could go into a societal rant in general, but I won't. I will keep it to the witchy community. We do not know where someone is on their path. We don't know what they're going through. Even if we've been through a similar experience, we don't feel the exact same way they feel. We don't react the same way. We haven't had all the exact same life experiences, so we can empathize, we can sympathize, and we can be helpful, but we can never truly know what another person is going through or suffering. You don't know what they don't tell you. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and therefore it's damaging to be judgmental and cruel and nasty. It is. It's not pleasant to decide that somebody is victim complex without, like this person that I knew who's been victim complex. I disentangled myself from them after many years, but they were abusive. They were physically abusive, they were emotionally abusive, they were verbally abusive, as well as doing the whole pity me, pity me, pity me thing. And people who have that victim complex will often seek to make others around them suffer. So if someone is just seeking help but they're not causing any harm to anybody, then that's not victim complex, that's someone reaching out. And we have to be so careful. You can offer help, you can offer advice, and on the other hand, you can't lord your knowledge over somebody, and if they don't take you up on your advice immediately, that's not another reason to write them off and be nasty to them just because they didn't do what you said. I mean, you don't know what they're going through, you don't know how they take it, you don't know what's available to them. So the whole point in this video is just try to respect other people going through this path or on different paths. It doesn't matter who a human being is. It doesn't matter whether they're male or female, or what religious path they're going through, or what their life experiences are. It's going to darken your own soul if you constantly judge people, if you constantly show a complete lack of empathy. Then you're taking that poison into yourself. You're not helping them, and you're turning yourself into someone you don't want to be. So I think that will do for this video. Many blessings.